to our live coverage here at the New York City Summit. I'm Am Grabelny, a developer advocate here for AWS, one of your hosts, joined by my co-host, Jeff. Jeff, tell the people.
Everyone, thanks for tuning back in. My name is Jeff Marushak. I'm a senior solutions architect on our DoD Air Force team. But more important than me and AM, because...
Wait, no, I'm going to stop you there. More important.
Well, I mean, you've seen AM enough. And you've seen me enough.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
But let's talk about CodeCatalyst. And let's start with Harry. You guys want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Harry Maurer. I'm the general manager for our AWS DevOps services, which includes CodeCatalyst, as well as all of our traditional code services, like code build, code pipeline, code commit. About 6 of them in total.
Very nice. Very nice.
And Kyle?
Yeah, hey, I'm Kyle Seaman. I'm a senior product manager on CodeCatalyst specifically.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, DevOps services, right up my wheelhouse. Harry, you missed Richard Boyd up here earlier, too.
Oh, man.
Did you run into him?
I love Richard.
I know, me too.
Oh, man. Yeah, I missed him. I wish I saw it. Yeah.
Richard was up here and stole the show, as Richard does.
Always does.
You know? That's right. So we're talking about CodeCatalyst today. You may have seen us talking about it at the Dev Innovation Day. I was together with you, too, talking all about CodeCatalyst. You want to start just with a high level, what is CodeCatalyst?
Yeah, sure. So CodeCatalyst is an integrated DevOps toolchain that helps teams go from idea all the way to production. So it gives you everything that your team needs to manage your issues, to manage your source code, build your workflows, deploy that to AWS. Some of the unique things about CodeCatalyst that we tried to do is make it really easy for teams to get started on AWS. So we have this concept of blueprints, which is more than just a template for your code. It actually gets you started in the right way with not only just all the source code, but all your workflows, have your project structured the right way. And it makes it easy to go from, hey, I want to build a website on AWS, to having a fully formed project that's well architected, that has everything that you need to invite your teams to, and you can start deploying right away.
What's interesting, you named a few things like your repository, your deployment and everything, and I hear AWS services like code commit and code deploy, so it sounds like Catalyst is bringing all those together into a package. Is that what you would say, or what's a better way to describe it?
That's one of the ways you can describe it, hence the catalyst, right? It catalyzes all the code services underneath it. So under the hoods, yes, we use all the traditional code services to power a lot of that capability. And what we saw, so the code service has been around for, I guess the oldest one, Code Deploy, been around for about 7 years. And customers really like those services as individual building blocks that help them sort of part by part build their DevOps toolchain. But more and more what we saw customers wanting to do was just give us all it integrated already together. So what customers would want is a seamless experience on top of it, and then also some connective tissue underneath it, which helps you understand how data flows through your whole project, governance, auditing, all those sorts of things. And that's what we did with CodeCatalyst. So we took the best of what customers were building and asked us to build, and basically built those wrappers around code services, and that's why it's CodeCatalyst.
So you guys had talked about CodeCatalyst before it was GA, so was the announcement recent? Was it?
So we, on Developer Innovation Day, I think was the day before GA launch.
Okay.
It might have been about the same day.
Gotcha.
So we just GA'd in April. And so we previewed at reInvent, we GA'd in April, and now we've got a number of new features that we're starting to roll out. We'll have another big wave of features come reInvent time.
Well, congratulations on the GA. I know there's a lot of work that leads up to that. Definitely. What are you guys most excited about with this GA launch, with CodeCatalyst?
I think we've seen a lot of great feedback from customers about how they want to use blueprints more, and so we've a number of new features based on their feedback that we'll be rolling out. Like, today there's about 16 to 20 blueprints in the product. We're going to add more, and people are adding more all the time. But customers want the ability to add their own and manage those, and so that's a new feature that we'll be introducing shortly. We've been really excited to see how it makes it easy for customers to start embracing some of our other AWS services like EKS and Lambda. And then, of course, now with all the AI stuff coming in, how we integrate things like Code Whisperer into the experience has been pretty cool, and we're going to show some of that in the demo today.
Yeah, legally, I don't think we're allowed to stream without mentioning Gen AI. So thank you for meeting that component for us. And of course, Gen AI, which stands for, as I stated earlier to Jeff,
Jennifer.
Jennifer AI.
Jennifer AI,
right?
yeah,
So I think this is a really interesting intersection. Look, I'm not a machine learning person, but I am a DevOps person. So, you know, what I hear about Gen AI is, you know, all these Chat GPT, these LLMs, all these things. I think what's more important to me, obviously, as a DevOps person is, great, I'm probably not going to be building this stuff. How is it going to be built into my stuff, right? What's it going to make my life better? Because that's all I care about. How's my life going to get better, Harry?
Of course. That's why we're here, to please you.
Thank you. Perfect. Look at this. I'm so entitled. Look, Jeff is ignoring, like trying to leave.
I
his
thought you were
body.
going to say you're not a data scientist, but you play one on AWS on air.
I don't. I don't even play one.
You don't even pretend.
No, I don't. Yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
how is this getting baked into the DevOps stuff?
Yeah, so we see, so we'll show actually some of this today with Code Whisper. So, so you know, across the whole software development process, right, there's the code generation part, the debugging, and then all the way through to production. And we always talk about, you know, generating code is one sort of thin slice of that overall process. And so we see a lot of the AI capabilities being, helping to accelerate the rest of that pipeline. So how can we use AI to better explain the intent of a pull request? How can we use AI to maybe go from idea all the way to PR? How can we use AI to go from, hey, you've only got 80% code coverage. Can we help you generate the other 20%?
Okay.
So I think every single point along the software development process, there's an opportunity for us to employ these new technologies to make it easier.
I'm hearing maybe I never have to do a code review ever again, and instead.
Well, ironically, so you know, we've had a product out there for a while, you know, called Code Guru, which actually does do automatic code reviews.
That's true.
And that only gets better with these technologies.
Love it.
So I think we see the role of the developer being one of still producing code, but also increasingly being more of a sort of a player coach, where they're helping to coach the AI through a lot of these tasks. Like, okay, I'm going to assign the AI a pull request, but I still have to validate it and approve it and know that it's right? So there's still this human element of oversight and guidance that we think is necessary as part of the whole DevOps process.
We're getting some questions from chat. So one in particular is around, can CodeCatalyst scaffold out a software project? So I'm thinking maybe, Kyle, it's your time to shine. Maybe we can actually see some of this actually working.
We could do that, yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, that's actually the point of CodeCatalyst, isn't it? Is scaffolding things out, helping you build faster.
Not just the code.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think it's probably easier just to show some stuff. So this is, I'm in CodeCatalyst here. You can check it out at CodeCatalyst.aws. This is a space that I've been using for a while. So let me give you a quick demo on what it means to scaffold a project. When you're creating so inside of a CodeCatalyst space, you can have one or many projects. It's where you kind of work with others. And Harry mentioned blueprints, and this is kind of, when we think about scaffolding, when we think about scaffolding, it's not just source code, it's your infrastructure as code, it's your pipelines to deploy it, whatever policies you have, and then the tool chain, like how many repos do you have? Are you mono-repo, many repos, issue boards, and like pulling that together. So that's what blueprints take those things. And unlike a traditional like template that's like, oh, here's some sample code or example code, this is actually going to generate based on what your preferences are. So if I take a single page application, for example, you can see you actually can view this code, and these are dynamic. So as I'm making changes, it's going to regenerate this blueprint. And so as Harry mentioned, like these are written by us based on really popular use cases. Like we work with the AWS solutions team, the well-architect teams. We know that customers want to make their own for their own internal requirements. But what's cool is this is defaulting to using React, and the project's set up as you would expect. It's got React imported. If I choose Vue, it's going to just fully rebuild the project now with Vue. So it's not just like a template. It's actually updating the pipeline to be Vue contextually aware. And
yeah, there are different build steps if you're building a Vue. Like Angular, for example, which is my area in particular, has an entire CLI built into its tooling, right? Yep. So you'd use that. Yeah, so
you can leverage that. So like the whole project is defined by blueprint authors and then set up to like how much customization should the developer have.
That's cool.
And then like we have this feature called workflows, which I'll show you a little bit more after, but that's your pipeline. And what's cool is you can, from CodeCatalyst, deploy to many AWS accounts. So one of the best like one of the great features that customers love is our deep integration. Like we just launched CloudTrail integration. So if you have CloudTrail security ops set up, maybe going through Splunk or other systems, CodeCatalyst just works. It will send all that DevOps systems into your existing AppSec and SecOps system. So
Wow.
we also work with IAM. It's really easy to get IAM roles put into here with short-lived credentials, and that's kind of this nice edge. Like developers are in this experience. They don't have to go to the console. They log in with an email and a password, but they get to use all the IAM features.
Got a question real quick from chat. I think this is interesting. So these blueprints, right? Who's keeping them up to date, for example? So like if there's dependencies that maybe have vulnerabilities or something, how do we make sure that doesn't happen in one of these blueprints?
It's a, I don't know if you want to take this, but so
I don't want to steal the spotlight. This is a huge.
It's a big one. So we've got really cool stuff coming for this for others, but internally, one of the biggest problems you face is, cool, I've built this project. Most projects are seeded from like one thing that then goes to many, and it could be NPM packages or things like that. But but remember, as I defined a project as pipelines, your source code, and all these other areas. So think of it as lifecycle management. So like we are contextually aware. We know the projects that got built using a specific blueprint, and therefore we can take actions on that, like regenerating the code when there's a new update. And there's some interesting challenges there, and we actually think generative AI or Jennifer AI can be very helpful here.
Thank you for using her full name.
Because, of course, you know, a project's been living for a while. Maybe they've added new packages. You've got pull request challenges because working with code and updating is hard.
It is.
But
you can't just, like, this is the thing that I think a lot of people who haven't dealt with vulnerabilities don't realize is that, like, you can't just come in and be like, upgrade, you know, because it might break your entire application. Right?
Almost certainly will if you've ever done an NPM install after like 6 months.
Oh, I deal with this almost weekly. Yeah,
and
it's
so
a lot of fun.
So the lifecycle management is something like internally is how we manage these and keep these updated and push updates out to the customer. And it's a product that we think is really important for any company because it makes it possible to sustain the baseline practices. Now, there's an interesting thing of shared ownership, how much of the project code is owned by the project developer versus the administrators of the space. So we're wrestling with some of those product questions, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, once you implement a blueprint, it's kind of yours then, right? Like, it's not that
it's interesting. So we kind of
actually,
there is. So we'll have more of a sort of a blended model on this. So we had a product before this called CodeStar, which was a great first step in the direction for what we're doing with CodeCatalyst. And one of our biggest problems was we enabled customers to create these projects, but then it was completely divorced from that original template. And what we found was exactly what this person had asked about in the chat was, okay, 2 days later we find a vulnerability in one of the packages, or we found that there was an inadvertent whatever with the way we constructed the code, and we didn't really have a great mechanism to go back to customers and say, hey, you need to update this in this way. So what we do internally is we have a sort of a dependency scanning type feature where we see the change and we can automatically issue updates to all the blueprints that had these problems. What we'll do is then extend that to customers and say, hey, this blueprint that you used had this vulnerability in it. You built a project from this. Do you want to accept this pull request to update it? And
that's great.
So that's the direction we're going to go in with this.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, to me, at the heart, everything I've heard about CodeCatalyst, everything I've touched it myself and built stuff with it, it's there with you through the SDLC, right? It's with you throughout the entire software development lifecycle, and it's only going to get better as you add more and more features to it.
Exactly. Our whole mission on this was to almost like reconstitute the software project, right? So any of us sort of I'm calling out my age here, but so you grew up in like the 90s and early 2000s style development. You could do so much like just within your IDE, right? Like you could build, deploy, you could do, and it was a tight circle around that project. But as your projects grow and your teams grow, that starts to fragment, and it's really hard to like, oh, this bit of information I got to go to this CI tool, or this thing I got to go into Git for, or this or whatever. And what we really want to do is within CodeCatalyst is build experience where we put more of our arms around that, and we brought it all into a more unified experience. So as you're going from code, as you're starting with this blueprint, you've got the structure that you need, and as you go from code to deployment to monitoring, it's all it's almost like that IDE experience all over again, where it's all tight right in front of you.
I love it.
So.
You're getting a lot of love from chat, too. This could save a lot of pain points that I'm going through in my current job, for example, from
Nice.
Solapunk.
That is the goal.
Nice.
All right. Sorry, Kyle, for interrupting.
No, this was an unscripted demo, so
Yeah.
it's going well. The last thing I was going to show is, so this workflow is running, and I've connected a few different AWS accounts. I have a developer role, and if I choose that, what's going to happen is it's going to rebuild the code, insert that IAM credential everywhere it needs to go, and then I can build my project off of that. But what I was going to demo, and I think we should demo, is what Harry's getting at is we know that customers have tools that they love already, and we're not trying to replace.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is this unify, make it really great to work with AWS, of course, but also GitHub or these other products where code is. So what I was going to show you is, if we want to hop over to that,
Yeah.
I made a project earlier today. We'll give you a little view. So when you're in the project, this is an empty one right now. We've got issue boards, we've got source repositories. What's cool is you can have multiple source repositories in a project, which again is just like, yeah, some people don't do monorepo, they want multiple source repositories. What a concept. Pull requests, kind of that collaboration flow. Compute, we have these cloud environments, you can define them in here so you can roll it to stages. But what I want to show you guys today is basically walk you through a little demo where we're going to go through linking to GitHub. Let's take a GitHub repo into here. We're going to set up a workflow on that GitHub repo, so it'll run inside of CodeCatalyst. You keep your code inside of GitHub, but you can benefit from the compute and pipelines of CodeCatalyst. And then I'll show you some Code Whisperer experiences using dev environments.
Cool.
So we'll go through those couple things.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up and showed all of the pieces on the left-hand menu, because I was going to ask you,
How organized he is.
you kind of named off some things that CodeCatalyst encompasses, but here it is right here. We have an overview like a issue tracking or like a Kanban type of board, code, your repositories, your pipelines, and reports. So.
Yep.
Yeah, you can do a lot inside the product, and one of the areas I work on is onboarding, and any product people listening in know how interesting, complex products are to educate on, and we're still learning on that because there's a lot here. What is the first run?
Yeah.
Something to grapple with. So let's take a look at the GitHub. So as we mentioned, toolchain is one of the 4 pieces that make up a project, and so right now we have a Jira integration, GitHub integration, and we've got a great backlog of requests from customers for other integrations. But in the case of GitHub, this is hooked up to my personal account. And what I can do is I can come in here and I can link a new repo. So I set up a repo earlier. It's a customer database inside of running on ECS. And then I'm going to link that to my New York Summit demo. And what's cool is this will get linked up. And then I'm going to go back into that project. And what we'll see now is that this repository is here. It's pulled in the README from that repository.
Oh, wow.
And that's,
I noticed this is with the Initech company. I appreciate that.
Not everyone notices that. I like that. So we've done that. We've linked our GitHub repo. So now I just have a simple, our workflow is using, a nice little YAML-based, pretty obvious. You can get to, it's pretty intuitive. It follows a lot. You can actually write GitHub Actions to run natively inside of our workflows as well. So I'm just going to grab this workflow definition I wrote. But what I want to show you now is dev environments. So dev environments are...
This is one of my favorite features of CodeCatalyst, to be honest.
Yeah. So what are they?
Well, instead of going and getting all the credentials that I'm going to need and all the things that I'm going to need in my environment, I can actually just open it directly in my IDE of choice.
That's right.
Yeah, so we support...
I passed Harry's test.
Yes, very good. Excellent.
Exactly. We support multiple... What I'm doing here is... I'll talk about it as it's loading up here, but I'm going to clone this repository into our dev environment. And what this is doing is it's going to open VS Code on my local machine. It's actually setting up a cloud container with all of the project context loaded into that. And you'll see as we start doing things with push and pull with Git, not having to fuss with credentials is amazing.
I could have used this earlier. Actually, I should have used this earlier. I should have said that segment with Richard, actually. I was talking to a DocumentDB database, which you have to be inside the same VPC, right?
Right.
And I was just using Cloud9 directly, right? So I'd put Cloud9 in the same VPC, but I could have used my choice VS Code personally.
Yeah, you could have. Yep.
So what we'll do here, so I'm in now on my local machine with this loaded up. I don't have Java installed locally, but you can see in this remote machine,
It's
there's
there.
It is.
version set. Yeah. I've never had to deal with it locally. It's just running. What I'm going to do.
Just real quick on that. So again, the power of the blueprints, this whole environment was defined in that blueprint based on the type of project you're working on. So that's why Java's there, right? Because we had that as part of
Right.
the
Right.
overall project.
And so all your devs on your team can share the same dev environment.
I can just imagine you're going to want a Docker version at a certain level. You want AWS
Yeah.
CDK toolkit at a certain version, NPM, all that stuff, and you can build that as part of the blueprint.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of mad at you all right now because I used to be able to say, like, well, it works on my machine, and now everybody's machine is the same, and that's not fair because
That's right.
now I'm the expectations are higher on me now.
That's right.
So you brought up VS Code. I assume there's integration with Cloud9 as well.
Yeah, you can run this in the browser with Cloud9. You can use like JetBrains IDs as well. So it's pretty flexible with that. So what I'm just doing here is I've just added in a workflows definition. Nothing that fancy. But what I'm going to do, I want to just show that you can commit this. If I push this back up, once it goes, it will.
So this was a dev environment that you created, and you chose VS Code and pulled down the repo, and you're basically doing a pull request right now.
That's right. And it pulled more than just pulled down the repo. It actually set up the environment with the Java dependencies and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's stuck, which is cool.
Yeah, so those commands are no longer running on his local laptop.
That's right.
They're running on cloud instance.
The dev environment that you
Yeah.
eloquently
It's
described
amazing.
earlier.
Like, no, this is like you have no idea. I mean, you probably do.
I don't.
Like, it's so difficult to set some of this stuff up.
Right.
And then you have like competing versions of these different softwares.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, this library requires Node 18.
Yeah.
And I've got to use NVM to switch to Node 18.
And what's
No,
funny,
like,
I just recorded a demo of installing something, and the first half of the video is checking versions
That's
of
right,
all
yeah.
those things.
It just sucks.
We don't have to do that anymore.
So the last thing, because I know we're a little short on time, I want to show you Code Whisper in here. So what's super cool is you got this dev environment. It's set up in my
Oh.
context. I haven't had to do much, but of course it comes with a AWS toolkit. So from the sidebar, I can go in and I can click Start on Code Whisperer. You're going to log in with your builder ID. CodeCatalyst and Code Whisperer both use builder IDs.
okay.
And I'm doing this there's like a security check here. So I'm just going to log it in. So this took me to the browser on a redirect. And once this is set up, I'll now have Code Whisperer running in my dev environment connected to my GitHub code, which is pretty cool. And so a good example of this is this code base is a test-driven code base. It's got tests. It's a Java project. But if I go in and let me show you. What I wanted to focus on is there's this customer repository. It does some basic. Let me get rid of my terminal. It does some straightforward, list customers, delete.
You got some CRUD operations.
Yeah, some
on
CRUD
those
operations.
customers.
And there's a good example. What did I decide to do earlier? I'm back in CodeCatalyst looking at my tasks. There's one here where it's like sort customers by registration date. And this is where like Code Whisperer's really nice. Mind you, I'm not a Java developer. So you come into here and you basically take a description, right? And what Code Whisperer is going to do, you can see it running down below, and it's suggesting a function signature. It's like, all right, that's cool.
And you can hit the left or right arrow keys that go through a number of different suggestions, right?
That's right,
Yeah.
exactly. And you can see attribution of that code. You can there's a real focus on sort of the privacy of this. So this has given me three options for this code base. I can do a longer one with a log output. This one looks fine. So if I accept that, I've now written basically a function that looks like it's going to list customers from all. I'm reading Java here. It's going to do a sort against that, and then it's going to do some debugging and return a customer list. And then what's super cool is, let me grab this function name. If I go into the tests, you'll see that there is a corresponding customer repository test file. And it's got, as you'd expect,
You can just delete
it's a
that.
setup. Yeah, right?
Yeah. We don't need to test our code.
It's got create. Yeah,
We do that in production.
It's fair. That's fair. This is my production machine.
Okay.
So you can see there are 4 tests for those who are not like you. And basically what I can do is same deal. It's like if you take a description of basically tell me to write it. Someone wrote these for me earlier. of like, let's try to demo these. So if I put this in here, I think this was the function name. And all I'm asking it to do is, hey, write a test that creates 2 users with different reg dates and validates that this new function I wrote returns the users in the correct order. Seems annoying to write. OK, it's going to give me a test. Oh, it's going to put it in the right order. Now it's contextually aware. That looks good. And then last step is let's fill in the signature of this. Oh, wow. Oh,
there we go.
There we go. That looks good to me. And what's neat is, well, anyone who checks out this blueprint, you can do this yourself at home because I know we're running out of time, but you can actually run this locally in this container, test it. It sets up a Dynamo table for you, and you're kind of on your way. So
I love it.
I'm going to cut it there because we're out of time.
We are at time. Yeah, that's beautiful. Look, I came here for a CodeCatalyst demo. I stayed for the Code Whisperer demo.
That's
we
right.
got a twofer.
That's right. That's right.
Same price. You charged us the same price for the.
That's right. That's what we aim to please. So yeah, you can check us out at CodeCatalyst at AWS and reach out if you've got any questions.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Where do I go get started? CodeCatalyst at AWS.
Yeah, you'll start with the builder ID, email and password, and you're on your way.
Okay. Jeff,
Awesome.
you want to take us out?
Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Harry, Kyle, thanks so much for your demo. This is great. And big thanks out to Jennifer AI for supporting
She does.
this episode.
She's a queen.
And we'll be back right after this live from New York City in 2023 AWS New York Summit.